if you found this part of the video, you are at Home Gadget Geeks. It's August 14th, and you're in the raw version of it. We got about 15 minutes before showtime, so you can hang tight and listen to the pre-show banter if you want. If you want to get right to the material, go ahead 15 minutes on the YouTube video, and that will get you started here at the very beginning. So hang tight, and we'll get started here shortly. Not too many people out in the chat room at the moment, but that will fill up here shortly.
Well, I'm going to take advantage of real quick and go
grab some water or something. Yeah, you bet. That's a good.
I got 2 beers. I should
oh,
be good.
Awesome. Well, then you're good.
All right, I'll be back in
We'll
just
see you in a minute. You bet. I lost the chat. There we go. Tony Rayner's out there. Tony, if you give me a quick sound check, that would be awesome. Oh, I'm going to change mine over to studio. Let's do that. Sounds a little bit better that way.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, do that again.
Well, that's studio.
Do that. Go back to the original one.
There's voice right there. That's voice. That's compressed, right?
Okay.
And then this is I don't know if studio is compressed or not, but that's studio.
Wow.
What do you think?
Wow.
I think studio is a lot better.
It is a lot better.
And the record's a lot better. So you can go up and change that if you want.
Oh, this is not a Jim thing.
No, it's a Google-wide thing. Yeah. Go up to settings and drop that down and choose studio mode.
Oh, look at that. I am now studio. No.
It doesn't make too much of a difference, but a little bit. Hold on, I got to get the fan on. Yeah, it makes a little bit. Okay, Tony says we sound good. Thanks, Tony. Live on Mixler? No, live on Spreaker. I need to take Mixler out of the mix. Just too much work to get that all running. YouTube and Spreaker. It's my third podcast of the day, Christian. Third one today. Can you hear me? You can't hear me? What? Yeah, what? You can't hear me at all? I don't understand sign language. I don't know what you're talking about. Put it in the... Is it me? Is it you? It's me? It's you. All right. It's you. It's you, not me. You guys can still hear me out there? I can't hear you. Check one. I'm coming through here. All right, I'll just leave you be. I can't hear you. Do you know I can't hear you? Shake your head up and down. Come on, Christian, I need someone to talk to. It's doing some weird audio in this thing. You guys still hearing me okay? Tony says, yeah, you're fine. Okay. All right. It's just Christian then. We've lost Christian's audio. Oh, there we go. That's a little, well, that's your camera, Mike.
How about now?
Oh, there we go. What was that all about?
I have to fix something weird on the motherboard of this desktop that I'm working from when I'm home. Is like does this very weird audio change, and I don't know what it does, but it like drops out the audio driver, and then everything just goes off key. Because what I was telling you, and then you weren't answering, and I was like, wow, he really is ignoring me.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, that settings panel, when you have studio selected, it says it's not optimized for conversations. I don't know why they would say that.
Yeah, but it sounds better.
Yeah, I know,
I,
but what
I
is?
I think so. Studio, when they originally came out with studio mode, it was for musicians to be able to play. You could
Right.
set up the mics and play music, and it's supposed to be uncompressed. And the voice mode is definitely compressed, so your sound quality is not as good. So I don't know.
So what am I right now?
I don't know. What are you right now?
I'm voice right now.
So switch over to studio.
Okay, now I'm studio.
Yeah, it's a whole lot clearer. I mean, the quality's a lot better on the studio side.
Hmm.
It's
Interesting.
not quite as deep. It's a little hotter, it sizzles.
Yeah.
It sizzles a little bit more.
Snap, crackle, cackle, crackle,
Yeah,
cackle,
I think it just
cackle.
sounds better. I think it sounds more like you're there. Not the well, whatever it was before.
What was it before? Oh,
Well, in voice
voice.
mode. Yeah, pretty compressed. It sounds okay, but then you flip over to this one and you're like, oh, holy moly.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
I like it. I've kind of been trying to switch to it as often as I can remember. I didn't do that this morning, and I don't think I did it during the Gallup podcast today either.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, remind me when we go off air. I got the global penetration numbers for you.
Oh, cool. Good to know. Had a chat with Chris today about some of the stuff he's thinking out. We talked with Jim Asplin today about that, so it's a good conversation. Good conversation. Yeah. Brian says less popping. I just think it's a gentler sound. Studio is a little gentler than voice.
Right.
So this morning at 7:30, I did Social Bro. Those are our guys over, and that actually stands for browser, social browser. But Social Bro. I popped the social bra question, and they didn't. She didn't think it was pretty funny. But I did, brah. And it was pretty. It was pretty cool. It was good. Great interview. We'll air that this weekend, and then this will air next weekend. This one. I'm going to get a week ahead because have a couple weeks off in September, so it'd be good to get a couple ahead.
Couple weeks off of work.
No podcasts.
Podcast.
Yeah, like the. Let's see. I think I took the schedule down, but I've got two recruiting trips I'm going to be out of town for, so not going to try and do them on the road. That just never works. Hey,
There we go. Sorry, I was
John
yelling
was
at my
back.
cat. He was trying to knock down. I am back.
Good.
My cat was just trying to knock over my lamp.
Flip over to studio mode in Google Hangouts there. Go up to your settings and drop that down, and then it'll say voice. The very last option's voice, and then studio.
Yep. There we go.
Drop it into studio mode. Gives you a little clearer sound.
Alrighty.
There we go. Not quite as loud, but keeps Google from monkeying with the sound. You might need to up your count to 5 for me, John.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, that should be fine.
Okay.
I assume you guys can hear us out there. Okay, everybody's level sounds all right.
Yep.
Interesting. See if that helps. Oh, I've got a control panel here. I could always. I haven't done this here.
You got more control.
Blow that out. More control than I probably should have access to. You're fine. You are fine. All right. Oh, 5 minutes. Gathering the troops. Gathering the troops. So I was telling Christian, third podcast for me today. So it's did one at 7:30 this morning with a group in the UK, and they of course they're in bed. It's 2 in the morning there, for them, and so I got that one about an hour and 15 minutes. I went way longer than I thought it was going to.
Wow.
And I went to work, and then we did a Gallup podcast at noon, and then I'm doing this one tonight. So,
Phew.
yeah, a little busy. Busy
A
day
lot of
for me.
podcasting. But you said you're about to take some time off, so.
Well, not for about 4 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks. September, I'll be out of town with work recruiting. So, are none of the other logins besides Chatwing in the chat room working? Everybody today during the Gallup podcast logged in as Chatwing. Something must be broke there, because all I see are Chatwing. I wonder if they're having trouble getting people logged in with other IDs. Tim Black, I just saw you log in. It's not everybody. Certainly somebody logged in, because you used to be able to log in with Facebook or Twitter or one of those kinds, and it looks like everybody's logged in with Chatwing. That was kind of weird. I noticed that today during,
I see all the options.
Do you? You see the options, but look at the chat room right now. Everybody's logged in with Chatwing.
Let me try logging in as Google and see what it does.
Today during the Gallup podcast, we had 60 or so in the chat room, and they were all Chatwing. I was like, that's weird. Never seen that before.
So if I just click on the little group chat, then it'll show.
Yeah, you logged in.
Yeah, I should be.
Do I see you? Are you logged in as a guest?
No, I should be. Oh, not in the chat, so I need to log into
our
chat.
chat room. Our chat room. Yeah, if you go to the averageguy.tv/live,
okay, cool.
There's a Chatwing chat room there, and
I'll check that out.
That's kind of the official chat room for what we do.
I don't know why Chatwing needs access to all this stuff when I log in as one of these special accounts. I'm sorry, but no, thank you. No, the freak, thank you. You don't need my friends list to log me in.
I love when they want your
just in case.
second
I know.
born and.
I know.
I mean, here, I'll give them my Twitter. You know what? You guys can have my Twitter. Make it feel good.
Well, I log in as a Chatwing account because it gives me all the the admin rights. Okay, well, Tim said he logged in with Twitter, but it shows the Chatwing logo, so maybe they're having some problems on their end displaying what you're logging in as. Rennie, welcome. Good to see you. Missed you this morning during the podcast. I was thinking about you. It was a little early for you, I know, but my Twitter avatar. All right, yeah, it looks like the avatars are getting it right, but sure doesn't look like it on the right-hand side with the names. It's kind of odd. There's John.
That is weird. Yeah, I logged in with my Twitter, so now they can read my feed.
There you go.
Apparently.
Now you have trouble finding your Twitter.
Hmm.
Did you get a new
I
one?
put it on here. No, it's endisnigh_com. So yeah, it's not John Nye. There's a few others.
Well, I just couldn't. There was, and I had trouble finding.
But I hadn't. I've only been like active on there for maybe a month. I've had the account forever, but just recently I realized how it's actually all right, and I can.
Why am I showing up as? Dang. Why?
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I think the last time I had you on, you weren't using it.
No, I wasn't. It's only been a couple months, and I've gotten hooked now. Of course.
Sure. Christian and I have too. There's lots of ways to. Once you start trying to really work it, it's just a big freaking black hole.
Yeah, it just keeps going and going.
It's just a gigantic black hole. Okay, hold on.
There we go. So it showed up with my photo and stuff, but it's using the Chatwing icon.
Yeah, that's what the chat room's saying. So it's the end is nigh.
Yeah, well, no, it's just endisnigh_com.
End is nigh. End is nigh.
The end is nigh.
_com. There you are.
And let's see. Oh, yep, and it shows my icon from Twitter, so that works.
We're following you.
Very nice.
Good.
And I'll follow you
that'll
back.
be helpful because that's what I always try and put that in the show notes.
Oh, perfect. There we go. I just followed you back, so that's good. And yeah, I mostly it's great for like little headlines and news and stuff. That's what I'm hooked on, because I'd always have like 12 tabs open in one instance of Chrome with all my little news sites that I like to read, and so that worked out.
I don't even like RSS is like, just follow
Mm,
Twitter.
yeah,
You can pretty much kind of know what's going on if you just following a Twitter feed.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes you got to click on a link and you're like, oh man, I got to read more than 128 characters or whatever.
You kind of become a headline junkie.
You do, you totally do.
Yeah, which is not good, by the way. That's
No, they were, what was it, The Daily Show? They were interviewing the guy who started The Verge. And he,
Josh
you know,
Topolsky.
yeah, and
Mm.
he was like, "Oh yeah, I don't care what the article says at all. All I care about is that the headline says something about side boobs or babies that dance or something." He's like, "Really, that's all that matters is that the headline catches their eye. I don't care if they read the article. I don't care if it's any good, especially not past the first paragraph."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, all the other journalists they talked to were like, "Oh my God, that's terrible. How could you do that?" And to a point, I agree, but that's just the way things are now.
It
We
really
don't care
is.
about that.
Hey, but before we start, Ken, no, we haven't started yet. Are we? I'm getting the picture is switching weird for me here. When John was talking, it kept flipping back to me. Are you guys seeing that out
No,
there?
mine just shows you, I think. It didn't show
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Well, this is weird on my end, which is I'm the broadcast side. So when you're talking, like count to 10 for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, chat room. When he counted, did you see it flip? Did it stay on him or did it flip back and forth to me? It'll take him 30 seconds for that to catch up to him. So let's give that a second. I am having weird results with Google Plus lately. Not what I'm hoping for, and getting unexpected results. They're changing some of the fundamental underpinnings for Hangouts in the
Yep.
browser, so it's all native.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't think it's going
Yeah.
well.
It's not all
Yeah,
happy.
it's not. Today at work I had to completely uninstall, and which I'll probably do at the end of the show here. Completely uninstall Chrome, wipe it out, and then reinstall it,
Oh,
and
really?
to get
Wow.
the whole thing. Yeah, Brian, I know it's flipping. The question is it flipping? Is it flipping correctly or not? So when he counted to 10. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, it flipped. It's flipping. It's not the appropriate flipping is what it's doing. Shoot. So it's not staying on the guest. Okay. Well, that's no good. Clickety. Well, that's Christian with the clickety clack. That's what that is.
Mechanical keyboard.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's all
Yeah.
good.
No, it's good.
I'll
At
turn it
some
off when I
point,
go
you'll
live.
probably hear at least one child scream
That's
from
all
my
right too.
feed, so you know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll have to do some manual of the video feed here at some point so that we get it.
And you
get
have
right.
control like that, though, right? You
do.
can. Okay,
I do.
well, that's nice.
On this end, yeah, I do. So it's all good here. All right, let's get started. You guys ready?
Alrighty. Yep.
Okay. Let's. Yeah, not. Okay. Let me get going. So we are done. Here we go. Number 2 of the day. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 180, recorded on August 14th, 2014. Here on Home Gadget, let me try that again. Here on, who's clicking?
Sorry.
Soft mute. Soft mute. Let me try that whole thing one more time. It's been a long day, and I'm not even drinking. That's the thing. Jeez. All right, here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 180, recorded on August 14th, 2014. Here on why can't I say that? Here on Home Gadget Geeks. Why can't I say that? All right, here we go. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show each week with world-class show notes. And this week, we're going to have some, I know I say that every week, we're going to have some really good show notes, but John, our guest, has included some very good notes out there. And so world-class show notes, we'll call them, out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, we'd love to have you contact. You can send me an email, Jim at the AverageGuy.tv. Track me down on Twitter at jcollison, or call in those questions if you'd like to our crank call phone line. I've said this for like 6 weeks now, and nobody's crank called me. I'm a little disappointed with you guys. I know you guys can do it. We'd love some great calls. Call in 402-478-8652. 8450. It's my Google Voice number. It'll just automatically go into voicemail. Leave a crank call. It'd be great. Or actually, seriously, we'd just love your questions. Comments would be great as well, and we'll play them right here on the show. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network, a fixed Geeks Network. Find the links to this show and many other great podcasts out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us in chat, watch, or listen live. We're now on YouTube as well as Spreaker, and find all the navigation over at theaverageguy.tv. All right, I mentioned before, I'm on my third podcast for the day, and maybe a little podcast punch drunk in this setting here today. Having some trouble. Just at this point, it was a tough. I got home early this evening, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just take a nap. And Christian and I were talking about that. And he's like, "Oh, I can't take a nap this late in the night. I'll never be able to get to sleep." And he's probably right. And so we'll do another. We did a podcast with Social Bro. So if you're listening to this in order, we had Social Bro, and I'm going to spread these out. So John, we'll actually publish this one next weekend for you. So we'll record it tonight, but we'll publish it next weekend.
Sounds good.
And we'll have Social Bro come up. That was actually really interesting. I recorded that first time ever. Recorded at 7:30 in the morning. On a Thursday, and a few of you caught the Twitter feed coming in, the tweets, and joined me this morning. So 7:30 podcast, and of course we podcasted at Gallup this afternoon, and then another one this evening. So we want to say, if you're joining me live, thanks for coming in, appreciate it. And we've got a great security podcast, or security focused podcast for you this evening. All the way over to the left, and we get to see him every once in a while now. And actually, with Cyber Frontiers coming up, Christian, we are going to we've actually got one scheduled for Monday night, right?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I tried so hard to be consistent about that show this summer, and then it was like life happened all over again at work. So no, that's going to be great. It's good to be back on this show. Good to see John again as well, and so ready to rock and roll.
Very good, and so that'll be Christian and I are working on getting Cyber Frontiers just more consistent. So again, if you have got that scheduled automatically. If you subscribe, there's the word I'm looking for. If you've subscribed, we appreciate you doing that. We actually have some brand new subscription options too. Normally, I'd save this till the end of the show, but super important. If you wanted video for any of our programs. So you're waiting for video RSS or video on iTunes, all available now. So Home Gadget Geeks, Cyber Frontiers, Home Tech Tips, both RSS and iTunes video feeds, they're all available out at theaverageguy.tv/subscribe. So go out there, take a peek at those. Spent a bunch of time on them last weekend and getting them set up, and so I know a few of you wanted that stuff. Head out there if you want to subscribe to those.
Jim, what time for Monday nights? We're doing that at 8 on Monday, right?
I think we are, 8 Central for that one. So if you want to come out and join us live, we will be doing that. And Ashton, a friend of yours, right, from school, will be joining us?
Yeah, from the ACES program at the University of Maryland. So we're going to start mixing some content and make it a little bit more uniform between cybersecurity and big data. So look forward for that. And,
that'll be good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good stuff. So that's coming up. Watch that if you want to join us on Monday nights. We're going to try every other Monday night and see how that works moving forward. But again, big news, all those video RSS feeds are out there. So if you've been waiting for them, the small version, 300 to 400 meg, the large version, 600 to 800 megs. They're not small, but they're video. And if you want to get those downloaded, you can do that or subscribe through iTunes. A lot of work went into that. We'd love to have you take advantage of that as well. And those are powered by MediaFire. So if you go back a couple shows, MediaFire, we talked with those guys over there, and I've decided to take them up on their offer for 1 terabyte of storage with direct links for $25 a year, and a pretty good deal, and we'll give that a shot as well. All right, let's introduce John Nye. John is no stranger to the podcast. We've had him on before, back June 19th, I want to say, something like that. But
sounds right.
John, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me back.
Good to have you. Let's for those who maybe didn't go all the way back and or didn't listen to that podcast for whatever reason, let's get a little bit of background on you because some things have changed. So tell us what you're doing these days.
I am a pen tester. I'm an ethical hacker over at First Data. It keeps me quite busy. On top of that, I'm still in school. I'm this close to done with my bachelor's. I'm on start my last term. I am so stoked. But I'm going to keep going because I'm a sadist and get my get my master's as well. So it keeps me busy. All that's in cybersecurity, and yeah, I guess I'm a hacker.
Very, very cool, and an ethical hacker. If
Yes, the
it'd
good
be
guy.
great, we're not gonna necessarily cover that. We covered that back on 160 something, I think, back
Hmm.
there. Just go to the site, go to the search bar, type in John Nye, and it'll take you to the last one if you want to listen to that. As well. So, John, tell us. Let's just dive right in. You spent some
Sure.
time at a couple conferences out in Vegas. Why don't you talk
Yes.
a little bit about what you went to,
Sure.
and we'll kind of dive in.
So, well, last week it was a long week, a very tame and church-like week in Vegas. Uh, I went to the Black Hat conference, and then immediately following that is DEF CON. And they're both conferences for security professionals. They're both hacker conferences, and the two together they like to call Hacker Summer Camp, which I think is kind of a funny thing. They use that hashtag a lot on Twitter. And so the difference is that Black Hat is more professional. I mean, it's like 2 grand for a ticket. So it's not cheap. I only went because I managed to score a scholarship ticket since I'm a student. uh, it's pretty expensive, and they have basically a trade show where they're giving out every T-shirt under the sun and trying to get you to buy their products. And then they have a lot of really awesome talks, which is the best part of it is all the talks. And then you've got DEF CON, which is still a security conference. It's still a hacker conference, and it was still amazing talks. But the other part's a little different. It's only $220 to get into that one. So it brings in a much wider variety of clientele, I guess you might say, or people who show up. And you had, I was saying earlier to these guys, it's almost was kind of split into thirds to where a third of the people are, middle-aged and professionals in the industry, and then you had another third of the people that are also professionals, but they're like the they know they're good kind of guys, kind of elitist, and they've got their friends that have been there. They've been going since it was started 20 years ago, and then you have this other group, which is young guys who think hacking is cool, and they might be good at it. I have no idea. I didn't know them, but they also think that to be a hacker, you have to wear a specific uniform. And those are the ones that made me laugh the most. And it was either the guy who would have a black fedora and a black shirt and, like dark jeans, or the guy who would, if anybody remembers the movie Hackers, dress like Snow Crash in the movie Hackers, which is the guy who had the ski goggles on his neck and like a plaid shirt that was too tight. It was pretty funny. So you had the whole array, but it was both were a great time. A lot of good information.
Yeah, Christian, we call you a growth hacker. Certainly, that term has changed, right? That hacker term has changed, right, a little bit as we're,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and so it's interesting, John. Sounds like, I mean, there's still some old school hacking when we think of that way, but
Hmm.
that hacker terminology is really starting to go to a positive direction.
Yep, I would agree. And it's a positive. The industry in general is no doubt in a positive growth mode right now. You could tell by the amount of people that were there. You could tell by the insane amount of people that were like, "Can you just, take my card and give me a call because we really need somebody to come work for us." Like I just started my job and I like it. I'm not in any hurry. They treat me good. But it's crazy. Everyone, even on the trade show floor or whatever, I was surprised because they have the monitors up where they should be showing their product, and 5 out of 10 of them, at least half of them, had job postings. I mean, it's like a -3% unemployment rate right now.
Yeah, it's certainly a
Hmm.
hot business going on. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's do Black Hat first.
Okay,
Let's talk through some key items there.
absolutely.
You got the keynote listed, although you got an interesting topic about USB right below that.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to summarize. Is there something worth summarizing around the keynote, or can we dive right
Well,
into?
the keynote was only great because it's Dan Gear, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen him, but I hadn't seen him before. He's one of those kind of genius guys. Like everything you read that he writes is just mind-blowingly deep and really makes a lot of sense. And his presentation was similar, but he walked on stage in a suit. But other than that, he looked like Neil Young. which was just awesome. You know, mutton chops that go out to here, and so I was like, is that the right guy? But I highly recommend if you get some time, I put a link to the text of his actual speech and a video of the speech. And you might the text and the speech are probably about the same. You know, he's not like the best presenter I've ever seen in my life, but the topics and the ideas in it, there was some really cool stuff, and that was really impressive.
Good. We'll throw those in the show notes if
Yep,
anybody wants to go
and they're there.
take a
Yep.
peek about those as well. Yeah, I'll put those in the show notes with
Oh,
when
okay.
we publish them here as well
Got it.
out at the Average Guy TV. Let's talk about USB because
Yes.
some interesting points in there,
Hmm.
especially around flash drives. And I don't think this will come to as a big surprise maybe to our audience, but let's talk about that a little bit because we have gotten a
Absolutely.
little lackadaisical, right, with USB
Yeah,
drives.
absolutely we have. And it has gotten that way. So a lot of companies have gone to VDI. So when you go to VDI, the only way to really save your stuff in a lot of circumstances is to use USB. I know my college has even done that. And they actually want you to bring a USB and plug it into their computers. Granted, it's a VDI, so even if you ruin it, it's going to disappear anyway. So I mean, but this talk was interesting because these guys had managed to actually put malware on the firmware of USB devices, everything from a thumb drive to a phone, and they have a little ROM that is actually writable, and they would write malware right onto there, and that would go right past your your spyware, anti-spyware, your antivirus. It was pretty interesting stuff. And so you could make it look like a keyboard, like the USB rubber ducky, or a lot of other things. So it allowed people to get access. That's the one that everyone's scared of. Like this one has been in the news left and right everywhere. It's a big deal.
One of the things that we do in our organization, of course, we just lock out USB
That's the
ports,
way to go. Yeah.
right? And is that really the way? I mean, is that just
Hmm.
how you stop it?
And that's what we do. In fact, if you plug in a USB of any sort, including your phone, to an authorized network computer, it will become encrypted. We will encrypt it right away. And so yeah, you could plug it in, but it's toast. You can't, I mean, you have to wipe it to use it again.
Christian, any changes to USB policies there at the University of Maryland going in, after this last, fall and spring there? Are you guys changing anything with this new center that's going in? Are you making any changes that way?
Yeah, I mean, the requirements for university security policy are very different from corporate, just because with students, students live on USB drives, and a lot of them are not, paying or interested in encrypted stuff, and because a lot of the academic communities bring your own device, where there's even faculty members who are bringing their own devices. No one really wants to try and enforce that level of regulation. So most of the security concentration is happening at the network level when these devices are connecting to the network. The exception to that being the mobile device security was a big conversation in the university circles, in the post event that happened this year. So, and I think the reality is a lot of people struggle with the large cost associated with encrypting mobile devices and actually making that work in an enterprise fashion. So that's something they're kind of confronted with head on, and a lot of companies are as well. But USBs are kind of a hands-off thing in any university environment for the
Hmm.
most part. Um,
Hands off, meaning they're going to work.
yeah, meaning
Okay.
like you're going to be able to plug them in and use them, whether that's like in a classroom projector where you have to give a presentation, or obviously no one's going to say, hey, you can't plug in a USB to your own laptop,
Hmm.
and that's like 90% of what students are doing, right? Those two things. So
Hmm.
and really for teachers, most of the teachers use webmail in a very scary way to just their life's hard drive is saved on Microsoft Exchange, and
Hmm.
I don't think anyone's ever told them what happens when Exchange disappears, but um, that's the reality for that.
Yeah.
Federal agencies, by and large, have all adopted the no USB policy as part of one of the numerous NIST standard numbers. So at least when I was at NASA, we were allowed to use USB drives, but they had to be NASA issued, and they had to meet the minimum iron key encryption requirements for storing files, and you couldn't cross-contaminate drives. So you could only use a work drive on a work computer, and you could only use a personal drive on a personal computer. So you couldn't plug the work into the personal or vice versa.
And that's a similar policy that corporations are taking. There, a lot of them are starting to do BYOD, especially with mobile, because it's cheaper. You know, you already got a phone here. We'll just give you $20 a month off your phone, and you can use your phone for work. And so that's actually a pretty hot topic, especially in my area. We talk about it a lot. We don't get to test it a lot because they want it to work. You know how
Yeah.
that goes. You know?
Well, John, I've got to put a password, right? I get forced policies upon myself when I do that. I'm assuming there's some encryption or something
Yes.
associated with that when it's making its way. Plus, they can control my phone if I lose it for whatever reason, or I leave. They can remote wipe it for any that gives them
Exactly.
the ability to wipe it as well. So, I'm assuming those are all best practices. Is there anything on the horizon around that that's maybe new? That we've been talking about this level of security for a while. I think most organizations are getting there now, as opposed to a year ago. Maybe not, right? It was just starting to come out, and people were kind of realizing maybe a year or two ago. Anything that you're looking ahead on that when we talk about bringing your own device, USB ports, whatever, that's on the horizon for that?
Actually, a lot of companies are trying to go more and more with these virtual desktop environments, and to the point that a couple companies that I've dealt with are attempting to make pretty much all of the end user systems that they can. So people, I guess, who aren't traveling constantly onto VDI, and in that case, it's volatile. So when it doesn't matter, I could go on it and intentionally download a dozen viruses, but as soon as I log off, that memory just disappears anyways. So that's one method that they're kind of going to instead of, and then you've got the BYOD where they segment it off, and that's kind of the thing right now. Just like with your phone, I know I have a special app on my phone for my work emails and calendar, and it's literally segmented and encrypted off to the side, and I can't access it without putting in my incredibly long password that I cannot do while I'm driving.
You've tried.
I've tried many times and almost wrecked, so not a good idea.
Not
That's what I
no.
see, but I'm sure there's new stuff.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
always is.
no, yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I mean that we're kind of, I think we're over the hump of this in the corporate world, where it's just an accepted, right today. It's just accepted. It's what you're going to do. Most organizations
Mhm.
are adopting it. I think we're beyond, beyond a lot of that in a lot of organizations. And I could be wrong. That's the sense I get out there. Do you get that sense from people at the conference that you're at these conferences as well?
Oh yeah, I would say so. I mean, the sense is that we're past the basics at least in most cases. So that's a good thing. At least
Sure.
we're moving past because it's for so many years it's been like, strong passwords. Just put in some strong passwords or, make sure you don't leave default stuff. And now we're finally getting past that. Companies are starting to take it seriously. They're hiring pen testers, you know. So it's getting a lot more serious.
A little more proactive. You'd put here in the show notes as well extreme privilege escalation on Windows 8 with
Yes.
UEFI.
Yes, this was a cool talk. Some of it was a little over my head, but it it was really cool. These guys were able to. The whole point of UEFI BIOS is that it's supposed to be protected. It's even kind of difficult to go into the BIOS if you're on a Windows 8 computer. You have to kind of jump through some hoops to get in there. But these guys managed to show in real time they basically could completely kill it by just writing some Fs to the very beginning, like six Fs, which is zeros, to the very beginning of the ROM that starts the computer, and it bricked the computer, just totally brick it. And then there was other where they took it further because it goes through stages, and it kind of has a cutoff point in the middle where you've got pre-authenticated stuff taking place, like the computer turning on and making sure that the video card is there, etc. And then if you can get in there prior to that authentication, you can end up kind of flowing along with the process, and then you can escalate your privileges. Is the thing there. That was a surprising one. That was a good one.
Yeah, and UEFI has really become, I like to think of it as the operating system in and of itself
Hmm.
before the computer. I mean, you see a lot of machines now that have like the Asus Express Gate is just an example of like hey, you can get a web browser off a BIOS chip. Who would have thought of
Hmm.
that a couple of years ago? And that's kind of bizarre, and I don't know how comfortable I feel about that.
Well,
Um,
and you're right. There's that, and the other thing. Go back even like 10 years ago, if you wanted to update your BIOS, you actually had to go into your physical computer and switch your jumper to allow you to write to the BIOS. And that, of course, has changed for convenience purposes, but it also allows these kind of attacks. That's another thing that things like this are changing.
yeah, and I mean we have guys who have pretty much. So we have a whole group of people on BIOS mods that deal with UEFI BIOS modifications, and the image itself has like an RSA encrypted signature that you have to decrypt the BIOS image just to get to being able to modify it, and those are some of the harder modifications that we have going on over there. But UEFI will probably be, I would say, pretty much on all laptops in the next couple of years. I mean, they've dominated in the laptop space very quickly. The inside BIOS platform has rapidly grown and to support UEFI, and now really, at least on all the mobile devices, you're seeing either Phoenix UEFI or Inside UEFI.
Hmm.
And on the, and the other, 5-10 years ago, Award BIOS and AMI BIOS as America Megatrends. Those were the two big names. And AMI still has a lot of the desktop and server market share, but you don't often see AMI on laptops anymore.
Hmm.
And Award was, of course, bought out by Phoenix, probably around like 2006,
Hmm.
2007. So I'm pretty sure one of the only companies that's still using Award as like a mainstream desktop platform, and they might not even be doing it anymore, is Gigabit motherboards. So
Yeah.
pretty much UEFI is where everything is going. And then there's also EFI without the U, and there's some interesting distinctions between that. But yeah, we're basically heading towards that
Hmm.
GUI-based BIOS world, and even the image sizes. I mean, when you were talking about like the computer of 2004, you were talking about a BIOS chip that had maybe the image size was 256 kilobytes, and like
Hmm.
the core option ROM, it's not an option ROM, the core module of that BIOS image was 128 kilobits. So basically, you got from the power on stage through the post in 128 kilobytes. Now with this UEFI stuff, you're talking like 8 16 megabyte images, which are like, yeah, that doesn't sound big in our standards of storage, but you got to remember, the BIOS chip technology is very unique in the way the addressing spaces are laid out and designed, and it's not like a USB drive. It's very different, but
Hmm.
just thinking like, oh wow, so 256 goes into 1024 4 times, and then multiply that out another 8 times, and you're saying we've increased the BIOS image on average by over 32 times. So my answer to that is, yeah, 32 times more probability that someone can
Hmm.
sneak something in there.
Yep.
So,
And
well,
part of what they were showing, so the increase in size has left blank spaces, which is another. So if they can decompile it and figure out where these blank spaces are, then they're able to put it in there. There's more room to put more stuff in there. You can actually make a working version that has malware put into it, like persistent malware. So it's pretty scary stuff. And one thing on what Christian said, the uh, UEFI, the fact that it's so pervasive all of a sudden is all Microsoft's fault because they basically said if you want to put a Windows 8 sticker on your computer, you have to have UEFI. And so they kind of forced it out, and maybe it wasn't ready for the big time yet, but I'm sure because it's so easily updatable that, people doing research like this is going to help get things better.
So John, besides the besides Microsoft maybe pushing harder on that, are there any inherent security issues with Windows itself in UEFI on that? Because Windows 8 has some new. I mean, that's kind of Windows 8 and UEFI came together.
They did, but I know it's kind of a separate area. I mean, that BIOS is what it loads up all your drivers and then hands it over to the kernel or over to the Windows. So unless I'm wrong, Christian might be able to correct me on that, but I think that it's kind of like you start here and then it goes over to here. So I think that the privilege escalation and the issues with it are more kind of segregated between the two. There's plenty of problems with Windows. There always has been. Granted, I love Windows still. I use it every day.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I got
It's
no
easy
choice.
to pick on. It's easy to pick on. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Christian?
Well, I think what John brought up earlier is really important in terms of talking about the volatility of the BIOS write space. Is that, yes, if you write that first pad block with Fs, now you've lost the one address hook that you need to start that whole sequence of BIOS magic, right? So in some cases you can design as secure architecture as you want, but if someone gets access to that hook, yeah, obviously it's basically like, well, why don't I just boot my computer without a BIOS chip in it, because now it can't find my BIOS chip runtime anyway.
Exactly.
But I mean, really, there's I would say the answer to that architectural problem is not let's redesign how that hooking procedure works. It's really about how do we strictly enforce BIOS write protect. And on desktops, it's like one thing, like you were saying with the, we used to have the jumper and so forth. No one wants to do that on a laptop, yet alone have to take it apart. I almost wonder, would manufacturers find it too cumbersome and bothersome to put a switch on the bottom of a laptop, just like, a switch to keep the battery in the locked position? Are we really going to go there? I don't know. Probably not.
No.
But that always intrigued me as being,
and that would be a good option, yeah.
Yeah, like here, the buck stops at physical access to this machine.
And it does. And that, I mean, because it's obvious, if you have your hands on the computer, you've got it. You can own the computer. But if you can change the BIOS remotely or brick the computer remotely, yeah, I mean, that's bad news.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. From a security standpoint, being able to re-engineer the BIOS could have some potentially deadly effects if in fact someone was genius enough to do the following, which is basically detect the victim computer. So I'm Joe the victim, and Joe the victim has an Asus motherboard model number ABCD, and okay, now I'm going to download the vendor image for that computer, and I'm going to basically drop out an option ROM that controls like booting up some, like for example, booting up the FireWire port that no one uses. And so we drop that part of the code out, and instead we inject this nice little runtime sequence that sends us some nice things back. You've just created what I call, the ticking time bomb of computing, where Avira antivirus or whatever the virus of choice isn't going to say, hey, you got a virus, because it's only looking at your hard drive. And so I wouldn't be surprised if hardware level cybersecurity starts to take emphasis in these areas. I mean, we've already seen this with stuff like Stuxnet, right? That was just pretty much burning the metal right out of the actual chips on that machinery itself. But doing that in like a conventional computing way.
Oh, Christian, we just lost your audio for a second.
Yep.
Can you hear us, Christian?
Oh, he can't hear us.
He's talking. That's weird. Maybe he's infected. Hey, Christian, we can't. Yeah, sure. Wait. Can you see us? He keeps talking. So
Is he still talking?
We can't. Yeah, we can't hear you.
It's too bad. He probably is telling us something amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we were having this discussion earlier. We'll wait for Christian to come back here for a
Okay.
second, and while he does that, yeah, he's having a few driver problems, and maybe his board is infected. But John, because we're the Average Guy podcast, and I just got some feedback. Christian, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me
Oh,
now?
I can't hear you now.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hold that question. But like the last 3 sentences we didn't hear there, or you just kind of cut out on us. So.
Can you say the last thing I said?
Oh,
Sorry,
dude.
I'm just sorry. I'll just resume. So, I'm not suggesting
I don't
that
even
this.
understand what you're saying most of the time.
Well, now, yeah, okay, fine. So what I was trying to get at though is that it would be really awesome, and again, I'm trying not to promote this on public broadcast, but if someone can come and email me and say yes, I know how to do this would be cool as a research project. Here's Internet Explorer. I'm a user. And can I create a virus that when someone clicks something on Internet Explorer, it basically starts a little runtime in the background that does this whole thing I just explained to you, which is drop out the module from the BIOS, flash the chip on Windows without them knowing, reboot, and then get some kind of communication back from that BIOS chip. That would be impressive.
That would be.
Obviously, one of the things I think of right off the bat is that Windows is relatively good with detecting the higher elevation requests for writing to privileged address spaces. But if you could find a way to disable that in the process, that would be fascinating to me.
Yes. Well, I would recommend checking out the PDFs from this guy's talk. There was definitely some. I mean, some of it, like I said, was over my head. I'm not a BIOS hacker. It's not something I've ever messed with. But he was talking about that, how you can take the privileges all the way up, and if you do it early enough, then you can do that, and you can write, a keylogger or something into there, and I mean, you could do some damage. You could really, and it'd never be detected. You'd never know it was there. But I don't think anybody's done what you suggested. That would be just too awesome. I agree.
Too awesome and too scary all at the same time.
Yeah, somebody hasn't done it
Depends who
yet,
does it.
that we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, NSA is probably doing it right now. So.
Yeah. Well. And well, there's stories about that, but for another time. Also, I'm going to make a pitch really quick that if you do have more BIOS questions, we are now HTTPS only enabled, meaning we live on the encrypted SSL net now, bios-mods.com. And if you head out to the forums there, we're talking everything about BIOS modification and unlocking pretty much all the time. So we're pretty much the one-stop shop for that.
There's not many.
Yeah, My Digital Life is one of the only other big communities that is still around in this area, and we've lost actually some really valuable documents on how the modification process works for some of the older stuff with sites that have since shut down. And I was able to pull the content back today with the good old Wayback Win machine, but we're
Nice.
we're one of the only dinosaurs still doing this stuff.
So Christian,
Yeah,
you're
that's
offering
cool.
you offered to bring the AverageGuy.tv up to that same standard, right?
That's right. So, well, we're going to cover this on Cyber Frontiers, but my quick description tag into that segment will be Google announced that sites are going to be slightly preferenced if they are HTTPS only, in response to like their changes to all Google data centers being encrypted in transit and all that stuff. So we'll talk about that on Monday. But yeah, that's the new standard that I've now made in compliance across our web platform, and I'm going to talk tips about how you do that on the cheap, but on the accuracy level. And if you really want to know how I've set it all up so that I get full SSL support for 5 years, $25 over that 5-year period, then you should probably hang out on Monday. So
Very cool.
So John, Christian's going to overcharge me for this upgrade. Is it something I really need to do? I mean, do I really need to take my site to HTTPS to get?
I mean, you kind of are the opposite of keeping your stuff secret in a way because you want people to see it. You're a broadcaster, but at the same time, I am more on the side that everything should have HTTPS. Why not? At least it's sure. We can strip the SSL or whatever. I'm sure that the feds can do the same, but it's a hurdle. It slows them down.
Yeah.
So and plus, it's just nice.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm half joking. Christian's going to do it for a dime. I mean, it's not very much, but and we'll probably move that way, Christian, just because I want to do it because it's cool,
Yeah.
kind of deal. It's just a good thing to do. But John, I want to come back real quick when we talk about this, maybe these last two vulnerabilities in particular, and let's maybe stay in UEFI for just a second. For the average person, I mean, what does this really mean? You guys threw a whole bunch of stuff out there, but
Yeah,
I mean, really, does the
high-level
average
stuff.
guy need to be? Let me start with you, John. We'll come over to you, Christian.
Yeah.
Do we need to be concerned? Just the average user. I just helped somebody buy a computer today, online.
Windows
Do they
8,
need-
right.
Yeah. Do they need to be worried?
No, I honestly, I mean, and Christian might disagree with me, but he is definitely way more BIOS oriented than I am. It's not something I've messed with a lot, but I'm not scared. I mean, I'm going to continue to use Windows 8. I think somebody'd really have to be targeting you. It's it's the same thing. If you're targeted, you're screwed. So as long as you're not targeted, the UEFI is fine too. I'm sure it's kind of a complicated hack, so I think you're fine.
Okay, Christian.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with that. For the most part, it's going to be. I mean, those edge cases on what you see on these conferences are probably. Some of it is like it's in the here and now. This is an example of for the probably next 2 or 3 years where people will probably try and start to manipulate this to be like a broader issue. But that's one of the cool things about these conferences is that you get to see like some of the here and now, but then you get to see some of the stuff that like it's capable of happening now, but it's not going to be in the windmill, so to speak, for another couple of years. So
Okay.
Yeah, there's
So
nobody actually doing it, and
Right.
it's like it's not in the wild.
we're
Same
not
thing with this
widespread, right? It's
bad
not-
USB. They
Yeah.
said that they had not seen it in the wild at all. Doesn't mean it's not necessarily out there, but they hadn't found any evidence of it. Same thing with this. I don't think it's actually been seen in the wild, just in a lab. So,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so
Well,
in the
that's always good to
future-
come back to it, right? I mean, we get really nerdy and especially security nerdy when we talk about this kind of stuff, and it's all really cool. And I get about half of it, and our listeners probably do too. I've got some this week. I got some response back. Let me flip the camera here. I got some response back from I've been sending out. We've been starting an email like a newsletter at theaverageguy.tv. So if you haven't subscribed to that, you might want to. A monthly newsletter, updates on what's going on here. Just a great way for me to communicate with you guys, because I found out this week not everybody's on social media, right? I got an email from somebody who said, hey, thanks for creating this list. I don't do Twitter, I don't do Facebook, right? And this is a great way for me to communicate with you. So
Yep.
head out to theaverageguy.tv and sign up. We've had about 20 of you do it. I'd love to get more. If you want to do it, it's up to you. But along those lines, one of the guys had said, who wrote me back, he was like, hey, thanks for what you do, but some of the time I just don't have any idea what you guys are talking about. And we tend to get a little, even though it's average guy stuff. So I always want to try and bring that back. What does that
Sure.
really mean? I think there's some super really good stuff in here, but I think not to alarm anybody
Mhm.
at this point. It's probably not going
Yeah.
to happen to
This
you.
is
right?
this is lab stuff. You're probably fine. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree.
Okay. Good stuff. Let's move on a little bit. Anything else you want to cover in that section?
Not from EUFI, but there was one more from Black Hat I just want to mention real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Well, I put two more on there. The 802.1x1 is interesting for anybody that's technical and has messed with wireless and radius and enterprise. And I know those are probably all crazy terms, but if you've messed with that stuff, I highly recommend checking out that talk because basically he showed how incredibly broken that system is. It was really cool. The other one was Kerberos, which is I still think a hilarious word. I'll never forget the first time I heard it because it's like Kerberos, what is this, But these guys really did abuse it
See, I
bad.
would love to see that. Yeah.
That was a great one. This was, he goes by Gentil Kiwi. He's very French and kind of hard to understand. He's the guy who wrote Mimikatz, which is kind of a pass-to-hash tool that a lot of hackers use. But what he did with Kerberos, it just in a nutshell, it was mind-blowing. It was
John,
one of
what
the,
is Kerberos, real quick, just
Yep,
for
yep.
those
No
scoring at
problem.
home?
So when you, especially a corporate computer, Kerberos is kind of the authentication system that works along with Active Directory. It would basically grant because it will give you a ticket granting ticket, which allows you to get a ticket, which allows you to get a service level ticket. But basically, it's what authenticates you to Active Directory. So when you go to work and you log into your computer with your work LAN ID and your work email or whatever, that is going to be through Active Directory, and it's most likely using Kerberos, almost definitely. But what he showed that was really mind-blowing was that you could capture these Kerberos tickets off the wire from an unauthenticated computer. So basically, he took a computer that was not part of this Active Directory and not part of this network, was able to go on there and snatch this ticket and then rebroadcast it and get onto the network. That was pretty cool. So then he takes it a step further and he snatches this ticket and he modifies the ticket to make it escalated privileges. Even gets cooler. Then he goes, and this is the part that blew my mind, is he totally went beyond that and did this thing called a golden ticket. All of this can be done in the new version of Mimikatz. If anybody out there is a hacker and wants to mess with it, it's pretty fun stuff. And he actually made what he called a golden ticket and referenced Willy Wonka, which was funny. But literally from whole cloth made the Kerberos ticket. I mean, the username was like FU and the password was like gibberish, I mean, just completely made it up and was able to get, domain admin level privileges with a completely made up, and it'll last for 20 minutes. Your Kerberos ticket's good for 20 minutes, but it was just, wow. I mean, it blew my mind. That was definitely the coolest talk, the most...
That's amazing.
Also the scariest talk, because Kerberos is what all of us rely on at work, and it was cool stuff. And there is the slideshow because he also talked at DEF CON. So the slideshow is in my links. Okay. And go check it out,
You know what,
it'll be posted too.
It's a great example of when Mark Goldstein on the Cyber Frontier podcast was talking about what it means to be insider threat. And this is the type of thing that is deathly scary to the insider threat problem, where... I mean, 20 minutes is a lot of time to do damage, and you don't need more than 2 minutes, but to have that elevated access to go in and add a permanent account or
exactly. That's what he did.
yeah. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, we're talking federal agencies and Fortune 500 across the country are using Kerberos. This is not just some. If you want the windmill analogy, this is not in the windmill. This is boots on the ground right now.
And that's why this was the scariest one.
Yeah, and
everyone's using it.
And that's got to be frightening for a lot of people because I don't think there's a patch out for that yet. So I bet a lot of people are scratching their heads right now, going, "Oh boy!" And this is big for Microsoft because Microsoft's entire enterprise architecture is built around the Kerberos authentication mechanism. So that is a big punch in the stomach to a lot of companies right now. The only thing that mitigates it is you hope that your employees that you've hired are trustworthy enough not to be doing that or aren't that smart to be doing that.
The scary part, though, is it doesn't even have to be an insider. This guy came in, plugged into the network, unless you've got port security going, and he plugged in from a non-authenticated computer. So I walk in as a delivery guy and plug in. I mean, it's mind-blowing. There's no doubt. I have to give a presentation about my key highlights from Black Hat and DEF CON at work in a couple of weeks, and this is the top of it. In fact, I don't even care if I get to anything else. This is the thing I'm going to tell them about because this is a scary thing to me.
Yeah, if you don't mind making sure those notes definitely show up in show notes, and if
and I linked to the slides, so they're in there. And the DEF CON is really good about putting up the talks, and he also talked at DEF CON. I didn't go, but I assume, it was supposed to be the same stuff. So you will get to see the talk in a few weeks or a couple months whenever they actually post it. So that'll be good too.
And Christian, you have access to the show notes right now.
Yeah.
Very good. But we will include everything John's talking about here. He's got a bunch of reference links.
Yeah.
You will definitely, the world-class show notes that I talk about in the very beginning, you'll want to come back. Some good links here if you're interested in doing. And you know what? And I'm not a security guy from that standpoint, but I do find this very interesting. So It's good. You'd mentioned port security, of course. And Christian, we had talked way back on one of the earlier Cyber Frontiers about reducing that footprint, the security
area.
footprint, the surface area, right? Reducing that. Certainly, locking your ports down or shutting off ports that are not currently in use. That's one of those methodologies, right? If you know you've got rooms where ports are not being used consistently, you can go in and physically unplug those, or whatever you do. I'm sure there's more sophisticated ways to do it along those lines. But and I'm sure there's other things you can do to kind of reduce that surface area and make sure that you don't just have a delivery guy come in. You know, that's stuff of 24, right? You know, where the guy comes in, he looks like a delivery guy, and he plugs in and does some stuff. Yeah.
Like the best movie of all time. That is like when I'm working at home and I want to have some noise in the background, it's almost always sneakers. I just turn it on. I've seen it 10 million times, but if you don't remember that movie, Robert Redford, you know, just it's like, for me it was like quintessential like pen testing security hacker movie. That is why I got into this field.
Yeah.
Awesome movie.
Cool. Hey, Lopta asks, was it due to a flaw in Kerberos, or is it a flaw in Microsoft's implementation of it?
I think it's a little of both. But I don't. You'd really have to look at the details,
Okay.
you know. And I didn't dig in that deep.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's still scary.
Yeah, well, I think it's, you know, with every level we've got these really scary things that I think it at any given point you take any one of them out of context and holy crap, it sounds like Ebola. You know, you're like, we have the plague, right?
Yeah, and you're right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you start saying yes, but. And then you start adding these things in, and you go, okay, well, it certainly is there, but
I gotta be honest though, this is pretty big. I mean, in
that
terms
was the
of
biggest one.
like the thing at work the one thing I've learned in the last 6 months at work is we're not curing cancer, but this is kind of like, this is somewhere in the middle of we're not curing cancer and we are curing cancer in the security world. I'm not sure which, but yeah, that's pretty bizarre.
So I highly recommend that one. It was great. And the guy who gave the talk, I mean, well, Mimikatz is one of those tools that's like, I don't know, epic or whatever, you know.
Well, I can only imagine the taps that are set up on that website for when you click to download Mimikatz, who is watching and recording that little activity from your IP address.
I am on so many lists, it's disgusting. I can only imagine, because I've downloaded all of that and more. So I know we're getting kind of low on time. There's one thing from DEF CON. I really wanted to, if we have time to.
Yeah, let's do it. No, we're good. Go ahead, John. Yeah.
Okay, so at DEF CON every year they give out these kind of crazy badges. I'll hold this up kind of close. And now my lights aren't coming on it. Hang on a second here. It actually has lights if they want to come on. Thing is, it kind of went through a rough week when I carried it around. So now my lights don't want to come on, but it has LEDs on it, and it's got a quad-core propeller processor on there. I mean, this is no joke. And then what's really cool is they've put together these badge challenge each year. This year is the second year, I think, that the guy who goes by Lost put it together. I put a link in here from these guys called Potato Hat Security. And they actually walk through the badge challenge, and it's pretty darn cool stuff. I mean, they show, because in the pamphlets you get, like when you go get your badge, you get this little pamphlet thing. It's like a little book, and it actually has a bunch of random spaces in here where it just has numbers, like strings of numbers. Well, it's all codes. I mean, it starts off real simple, like 1 equals A, 2 equals B, and it means something. But then, you know, take out the dashes, and all of a sudden you've got a URL, and then this URL leads you to just some ridiculous picture of, like, well, this one led to a picture of just like this old guy, but if you figured out who he was, then you could look at his the wiki page, and then you could figure out something else about him, and you would say, oh, and then it's just crazy. So if you get a chance to check out the challenge walkthrough, it's just mind-blowing, all the stuff they did. You know, I was more worried about the talks and socializing, but I think next year, you know, this is something I want to give a shot to. They even have all these things on the floors all throughout the Rio that, you know, they're just a big DEF CON logo, but around it, it'll have numbers. Or in the middle, it had a QR code. I mean, it was just that's really cool when you get to do that. And you can plug this badge into your computer with the little propeller software. You can dump the software that's on it. Uh, you can pull it off and you can put other software on. I haven't messed with propeller boards before, but I messed with the Arduino, and it's similar. And you can actually has IRs on it. So at the con, if you flashed your badge to a certain setting, then you could like push one of these buttons and make other people's badges flash or do weird things. And yeah, so it's pretty cool what they do with the badges. You know, as compared to my black hat badge, which did I bring that one with me? Oh, sorry, I probably just making everyone dizzy there. I didn't, but the
Okay, I
black
just
hat
had a
badge.
seizure.
Yeah, the black hat badge is literally just, you know, it just says my name and it says black hat. It's just paper, you know, which is funny because I paid, you know, or would have
Yeah.
paid $1,800 for that one. This was 200. But yeah, the badge is one awesome part of DEF CON. Of course, everything is awesome.
That's a pretty amazing. I mean, it's almost like it's the badge is hackable, right?
It is.
Almost.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, and I don't know if my battery's died or if this little battery compartment it's kind of loose. You know, I may have dropped it a couple times. You know, they were giving
Yeah.
out free beer one night at the Rio.
Hey, well, you can't pass that up.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
pass
At
that
the
up.
Rio is like unheard of.
Yeah,
So,
that Rio's pretty nice for sure.
yeah, to give free beers.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty cool. That I mean, that they're really engaging. I mean, from that perspective, that the
Mhm.
badge was engageable, if you
Mhm.
could, say that,
Yep.
and do some stuff with it. And Christian, that you got to be looking at that kind of going, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what sucked, they ran out the first day. So I just couldn't imagine having waited in line or driven all the way to Vegas or whatever and waited in line for hours because you can only buy these with cash at the gate. You can't
Ah,
pre-register.
okay.
And so, but well, unless you're at Black Hat, and then you can pre-register, so you get a cheat. But so I cheated. I got mine through Black Hat, and so I knew I would get one, but there was thousands of people, there were hundreds of people that were walking around with a big paper thing that just human badge, and it was paper, and that would have made me
Nice.
so mad. I would have been so upset about that. That was part of what I was looking forward to. They also did this. I know you guys are almost out of time,
No,
but
hey,
this is
don't worry
something.
about time, John. We're good.
Okay,
We're good.
this is something that will really. It's great for the average guy, and this is this So Hopelessly Broken competition that they did. And Soho is small office, home office, and they're talking about the router that you have at home. And they brought in, I think it was 8 or 10 different routers. The real common ones, Linksys, and the one that Cox gives you, and the one that CenturyLink gives you. I mean, just the router. I mean, if you looked at them, you're like, oh yeah, I have that one, and my father-in-law has that one, and my mom has that one. I mean, you see all these routers, and they had a contest to see finding 0 days in there, and 0 days are unpatched flaws that are generally pretty bad. They just during the 4 days of DEF CON came out with 15 0 days for these. So your home router is very insecure. Lock it down, give it a long password. I mean, the list goes on. There's things you can do to secure it. Really put new firmware in it would be the best way to
Oh,
go. And
really?
that's
So that I
yeah,
could do that? I
yeah,
could upgrade it,
most
or
routers. Yep, you could
yeah.
put and you. I'm talking. Forget what Linksys is trying to give you, and go on even on EFF's
DD word.
website. Yep, DD word exactly. That's another good one. And EFF is actually working. The whole point of this is that they're working to make a sort of open source new version of DD work. But yeah, so that was another one that is very affecting the consumer to the
I
consumer.
freaking hate these conversations because I get all nervous. You guys scare
Yeah.
the hell out of me.
Yeah, you walk out of the conferences. There's two things on the plane on the way home. One is, oh my God, I can't believe I drank that much beer this week, and the other one is, oh my God, I can't believe everything is so screwed. I mean, you walk out feeling those two things. You're just like, yeah, it's. I'm sure some people walk out depressed, and not just because they drank too much over the week.
John,
So
pretty international audience there for that.
very international. In fact, at the couple of the talks, they were showing map like all the different people from all the different places, and they I think 200 countries were represented, or I mean, just some absurd number. You're like, there's that many countries out there, but yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And John, you made a reference to Propeller earlier. What is that?
Oh, Propeller is just it's the actual chip that's on here is a Propeller chip. I believe they made the whole board. If you've ever messed with Arduino, in fact, last time I was on here, I talked a little bit about Arduino. Um, they're just kind of hackable boards, customizable. You can use them to make robots. You could use it to make quadcopters. Use them in all kinds of things. They're kind of the brain, but they're really customizable. You can change the ROMs. You can add bits to them. That's the other contest. One of the contests they have is whoever hacks the badge the best. And the guy who had the best hack this year actually uh, turned his into a quad, which was pretty badass. I mean, he actually
a
he actually
quadcopter.
a quadcopter. I know.
Yeah.
I think he just put an Arduino board on top, but still, he made it so it could fly, and that was pretty cool, you know. So it's,
Ah,
I
very
mean,
cool.
it's cool, and they have
Yeah.
all kinds of contests to capture the flag, and it is like the World Series of Capture the Flag, which is it's a hacker competition, which is about the least exciting competition in the world to watch because it's literally a bunch of guys who sit in front of their computers in little teams, very secretive because they don't want anyone to see their awesome code. And I mean, it's fun to play, it's fun to do, but to watch, no, you wouldn't. It's not a spectator sport.
Just wait for the results, right?
Yeah, wait for the results. You know, they had some cool videos playing in there you could walk through, but you know,
Very cool.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the notes I put on here,
Yeah.
but just go through them, all kinds of fun stuff, and in like I said, in about 2 months, all of these talks will be online. DEF CON at least, they put all of their talks online in high quality video, very good stuff. It'll be
Okay.
on those archives that I
Yeah.
linked at the very top.
Yeah, and we'll put those all out in the show notes again. So if you want to go out and take a peek, there's more than what we talked about here, but certainly a lot of information. Overwhelming at times, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Overwhelming to deal with. You know, just kind of be like, oh man, I gotta read up on. Oh man, I'm screwed here. Oh, you know, it is like it's like every time we have Amber on from LastPass. You know, I'm just like, oh, now I gotta go change all my passwords and.
I know I need to do that.
With everything that's going on. Christian, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's the big piece for sure. Definitely within the next 2 years, I'm going to commit to going to one of these conferences. 'Cause-
$220, you know. And
Yeah.
I told my wife next year she wants to go, and she's a theater person, but she wants to go because she knows that the evenings are fun, you know.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
Vegas.
it's not always the cost of the conference. I mean, I can get into CES for free.
Hmm.
It's the flights and the hotels. I mean, especially during those times, you know, you think, oh, Vegas is cheap. No,
Yeah.
it's not actually cheap during those times,
I'm
especially
pretty
during
proud of
CES.
myself, though. I went to Denver for travel and didn't really do anything in Denver except hang out in my hotel and work. But I mean, I spent more than a week in Vegas. So my actual my expense report was $7 less for my week in Vegas.
Oh yeah, you can. Well, the nice thing about Vegas is you never have to pay for food for the most part, especially.
Well,
if you
food
go.
actually is the only thing I paid for.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah,
Okay.
food and cabs. Drinks, especially at DEF CON, and especially if you work for a big company like you guys do, you don't pay for drinks because every vendor there wants you to buy their stuff, and therefore they're going to take you to lunch, and they're going to take you to a party with all free drinks, you know, I mean, so.
Yeah, well, for sure, that's the Vegas culture.
Yeah.
And it's all good from that standpoint. Well, so John, you've officially probably worked yourself off of Home Gadget Geeks and on to Cyber Frontiers. Going forward, I should
Sounds
probably
good.
stop having you here because you're scaring the bejesus out of me, and probably a lot of our Gadget listeners, but certainly what Christian's doing with Cyber Frontiers, or what we're trying to
Definitely.
do with Cyber Frontiers, is probably more along those lines. Wouldn't you say, Christian?
Yeah, for sure. No, we
Yeah,
gotta have
hit
him
me
over.
up. I'm game. I'm always game.
Yeah.
So hit
No,
me
we've
up.
got a good little gig going on with Cyber Frontiers, and we've got some things fired up and started certainly the platform is there. I've been working over the last couple months to get all the pieces put together, just from a podcast perspective.
Oh, sure.
I don't know jack about what you guys are talking about, but I will certainly be able to record it and have some great conversations around it. And so if you're interested in more of this, might want to migrate your way over to Cyber Frontiers. So good stuff. So,
and we're going to well, at least I'm going to be broadcasting live from the new fortress, which is Prince Frederick Hall, where all things Honor cybersecurity will be taking place in the fall. So that will be fun.
Yeah. We won't expect a tour, but
yeah, you will. It's going to happen within the first week.
Some kind of cyber tour that Christian will take us through. And, well, we made it through the podcast. I've been having to manually switch the video, so if you made it to the end of this and you're watching the video and you're like, how come it was late and blah, blah, blah. Well, Google's doing some weird stuff. I don't know what's going on with Hangouts, but they have not been as stable as they've been lately. But we made it through a podcast. Let me do some housekeeping. You guys hang tight for just a second. We'll wrap up the recorded part of the podcast, and we'll jump into some post-show stuff. And of course, the post-show is almost always better than the show, because it's like gloves come off, and every show I do, the post-show is really good. But you don't get the post-show unless you're at the live show. So we'll say, if this is the first time you're listening to this, maybe you came in and you're wondering, what are these guys doing? We're live every Thursday night with Home Gadget Geeks, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv/live, and love to have you a part of the community. Many of you have joined us on the Facebook page, and we'd love to have you come out. All those links for everything subscribable, including our new newsletter, as well as brand new iTunes feeds, all available at theaverageguy.tv. So I won't bore you with that. You guys all know how to go out and get that stuff, but there is a new subscribe page. So theaverageguy.tv/subscribe will get you there. There's a link up in the top. And everything we've done, a bunch of brand new stuff that's out there for you as well. Love to have you do that. I want to say thanks for supporting the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund, and for all that does. And you do that when you use theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, and we've got some items out now and some reviews hopefully coming back here fairly quickly. It's always funny. Everybody thinks it's going to take them a shorter than it actually does to review an item and actually get a post. It's a lot harder to make a post, I think, than most people think it is. And so those always get a little delayed. You can always come on the show too. We have a LastPass. Speaking of LastPass, we have a LastPass Enterprise. So if you're thinking about using LastPass for your organization, we have an affiliate link for the trial code. Again, that goes to the Tech Scholarship Fund here at theaverageguy.tv. Just go to theaverageguy.tv/LastPass trial. All one word, LastPass trial. We'll get you to that, and appreciate you using that link if you want to do it for that trial. And then the Home Server Show meetup's coming up in Indianapolis here September 20th, and we still got a bunch of spots open. It's $20. That'll help us cover lunch when you come out there, but I'll be driving out, Dave McCabe, and we've got 25 guys, 30 guys already lined up for it. It'll be a great meetup. We always have a good time, and so the link to that will be in the show notes as well. If you want to come out to the meetup, we'd love to have you out there. And then one more reminder, I do Ask the Podcast Coach Saturday mornings, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. No show this week, but if you're a podcaster, aspiring podcaster, want to know some things about podcasting, I know a few things, not too many, but a few, maybe more than I know about security. Out there on podcasting at Ask the Podcast Coach, and we do that at askthepodcastcoach.com/live. All right, well, this will wrap up the recorded version of this. We'll hang around for a little bit of post-show, so if you're in the chat room, hang tight. And John, great to see you. It's great because you're in town, man. I mean, this is the awesome thing about it. We should probably get together for lunch.
Sure.
A little more
sounds
often
good. Yeah,
somehow. These other guys, there's no excuse for me because they're all over the country. Christian even works for me, and I don't get to have lunch with him all the time. But here you're in town, so we should make that happen. So John, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Christian, great to see you as always, and I know we get to talk not every day. Just I guess it kind of depends on what's going on. But thanks for coming out tonight on short notice. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
We'll do it all over again next Thursday, and just real quick, if you want to know what's coming up, we had Social Bro early this morning. I mentioned that, but we also have Zapier. They're a web automation tool coming up. A lot of things you can do with social and social automation. that was kind of my summer of work. A lot of the things I did this summer revolved around social media and social media automation, and so I've gotten some of these guys to come on. Zapier's coming on next week as well, and then we're back. Wade Forrester from Zapier will be coming on, and then we're back to kind of the community stuff. Gordon Schmidt's coming on. We'll have Nathaniel and Kyle back on. Keith Lunsford's going to come back on and talk about his it's a quad. It's 6 propellers though, so it's hexacopter. And so, John, you might maybe we have you back on to talk about your quadcopter at that.
Yeah, which is actually broken right now.
His is too.
I had it like 500 feet in the air, and
yeah,
it's all right. I've got extra parts. I just have to put it back together.
They need parachutes. Keith talked to me tonight, and he said his was broken too. And I guess they're a little harder to fly than people think.
Yeah, they're a lot harder to fly.
That will be the 911. No irony there. That will be covering quadcopters and hexacopters on the 911 version of Home Gadget Geeks, but those guys are coming back on as well. So that's the next couple weeks. Love to have you come out 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern at the Average Guy. .tv/live. Good night. Okay, we're in the post show.
All right, I'm going to another. Whoops. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
Go ahead. Yeah, go. Yeah,
I'll be back in a minute.
You're good. That sounds good. Yeah, those 2 beers kind of got you, didn't they? That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. Christian, I'm actually going to air this next week.
Right.
So we'll do, okay.
We're doing, you're going to put me on for the Zapier one, right?
Do you want to be on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's the CEO of Zapier, right?
That's the CEO of Zapier, yeah.
Yeah, I want to be on that one.
Yeah. So, and then let me get John lined up for the one with Keith. That'll be good. Well, all we're going to do is talk about copters. That'd be kind of fun. No show on the 18th and no program on October 2nd.
I was telling live chat well, I guess I'll add this to my list of when I have just inordinate amounts of time, which is probably never. I need to make a guide for how to build the like the Sheldon robot that I had at Langley for that year.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that in a while.
How to do that on the cheap for yourself and build one, because one of my friends who worked there, he did this. He built his own he took one of those. Remember when we used to talk about those EEE netbooks, the Asus EEE netbooks?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Well, he made the screen. He took the screen and made that like the screen for the robot, and then used the base part of the netbook as the logic controller, and did all the gears. And he built an Android app to control and drive the robot using the Android app, which was really cool. And I mean, you could probably build it nowadays. You could probably put it together for maybe like $500-600 max.
Yeah.
So
no, real reasonable. Christian Ashton's out there. He's asked, what's the difference between UEFI and EFI?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Let's see if I have the article.
By the way, Ashton Webster is going to join us Monday on Cyber Frontiers as well. He's out there and is going to join us. So he's up for Monday night's Cyber Frontiers. Ashton, will be good to have you on the program.
Yeah. Oh, and
hopefully video will be working better that night.
Right.
Drashna has a note out there too. The original is an Intel spec, and I think it's used for IA64.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember what the UEFI is firmware made by Secure Boot, I think. And then
that sounds right, I think. Yeah.
And then EFI is different. I don't remember why.
Hey, John, I want you to think about something while Christian's thinking about that. Can you? I've started a new segment we call Home Tech Tips.
Okay.
That is a short 3 to 5 minute kind of segment that someone that we could get SEO on, and somebody might get introduced to the network through one of these quick tips. We know new people won't give us an hour and 15 or 20 minutes that we normally go, but
Sure.
sometimes they'll give us 5 minutes. Anything from either one of those conferences that you could summarize in 3 to 5 minutes and include it, and we'll do a quick little home tech tip segment.
Sure, sure. We could probably the thing about the routers would probably be a good one.
Oh, okay. So think through that for a second. I've got a little intro that I do for that, and then we'll run you on a little home tech tip. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Yeah, and try and make it kind of practical, more average guy practical.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, perfect. We're just I'm trying this out to see if this is if this will work to just introduce people to the network. I think is, again, it's a huge commitment to ask somebody to listen to an hour and 15 minutes of a podcast or whatever. But if we get some quick tips in there, I'm hoping that'll break it up a little bit. So think about that for a second and tell me when you're ready. Ken, thank you for reminding me of that. I'm the guy that started those, and then I get so caught up in the show, and I get to the end of the show. To be honest, I'm a little tired, and then so Ken out in chat was like, "Hey, we're going to do a home tech tip tonight," and I do have one lined up with John Zadler. I'm trying to get ahead on those as well, so I've got one for every week. And John Zadler gave us one last week. I actually got two, one from Schoonover, one from Zadler out of the podcast last week. So we'll play that. John, reminder, we'll release this as well as your tip probably next week as well. So
Okay.
this
Sounds
will
good.
go live tonight. Typically I would release it on Monday or Sunday, but I've got Social Bro ahead of you, so I'm going to release them, and then I'll hold this till next weekend, and
Sounds good.
I'll just kind of stay ahead to cover a week off. So.
And that's fine. Yeah, and when you release it, then I'll post it on all my social things to
Yeah,
post it for people to watch it tonight,
Sure.
but who knows.
Yeah. No, we got a good
Schedule.
crowd tonight. This might be. We're kind of the live crowd has been encouraging over the last I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks. We've just been getting a very strong live crowd. I mean, for me, 15 is pretty good. So it's I like that. So good job, guys. Thanks for coming out. Okay, you ready for a tip?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, let me bring up the. Hang tight there, Christian. Unless you got to go. Do you need to go? Are you good, Christian?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Let me throw this tip in. All right, hold on. Let's get this done. All right, here we go. We are in the post-show of Home Gadget Geeks, found over at theaverageguy.tv. I'm here with John Nye, and he's an ethical hacker, and he has a few tips for us around routers. John, what do you got?
Yes. Well, last week at the DEF CON conference, the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, sponsored a contest where they brought in, I think it was 8 different actual home routers, like small office home routers, and challenged people to find serious flaws in them. Well, over the course of those 3.5, 4 days, they found 15 previously unknown, known as a zero-day flaw, that basically allowed access to these routers. So what we're saying is your home router might not be as secure as you think. It doesn't mean you need to, freak out and unplug from the internet, although that's probably the only way to actually be 100% secure. But there's things you can do. Go in and update you can always update them, all the new ones. If you go actually into the web interface on them, which it will probably tell you how to do that on the bottom of the router. It'll usually say you go to 192.168.0.1 or something like that. And if you've never done that, it probably has a default password, which is number one thing to fix. Change that password and go in and update it. Make sure you've got it set to WPA2. There's just, I encourage you to make sure it's up to date. And if you feel adventurous or you have an old one that you want to try, there's other options you can find. And the EFF website, EFF.org, or Electronic Frontier Foundation, has a lot of resources to kind of point you in the right direction and help people secure their routers because they're trying to do that.
All right, a good security tip from John Nye, and you can find John Nye here at the AverageGuy.tv network, as well as maybe on some future Cyber Frontiers episodes coming to you. I want to thank you for joining us here on Home Tech Tips. You can find more quick tips just like this one and subscribe to Home Tech Tips out at theaverageguy.tv.
See, I don't know if they can see me. My wife's trying to give me bunny ears. Yeah.
No, I switched the camera away from you when
Oh,
she was doing that, so
they
I
didn't
didn't
see
even
it.
see it. I didn't see it. I was
Oh,
focusing on the notes. Shoot.
he was
Well,
reading his
that's okay.
notes. It's all good.
Good for her. Good for her for trying
Yep,
on that one.
she
All right.
tried.
Ken, thanks for the reminder on that one as well. That's good.
Definitely.
That's good. It's a good reminder. Check your router, you know.
Yeah, you can probably update it, and it would probably make a world of
Probably.
difference.
I need mine's locked down pretty tight from a
Mhm.
password and all that other stuff, but it's
I've
probably
gone like
it's
way above and beyond with mine. They give me one with my CenturyLink, and I have disabled the radios completely on it, and then because you have no choice but to use that router because that's also your modem, and then on top of that, then I have so it goes from a wired connection into a firewall, a Linux box I've set up as a firewall, and then I have another router on the other side that is locked down, but it, because I still have a bunch of devices.
yeah.
So, but that's
Yeah.
me. I took it 10 steps too far, probably.
Well, it's good practice, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
practice what you preach. I mean,
hmm
it comes in. Mine comes in through the modem, and then I go immediately into a PFSense router,
Yep, and
and
that's what I used to. Yep.
that works out pretty well for me. And then I've taken wireless completely off. I mean, it used to all go through the wireless router, and now that's
hmm
just an access point that is fairly locked down
hmm
from what it can and can't have access to. So and it's still
But I got a
probably more open than
Roku,
it
and
should. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I got my tablets and my Roku, and my wife's got an iPad and the iPhone, and so all that stuff's got to be able to access it. And if
well,
you run
yeah,
like Metasploit, a scan with Metasploit, which is like the best hacking tool of all time, on like your home network, and or run a Nessus scan, which is like a vulnerability scanner. Oh my God! I mean, you'll be so shocked if you have an HP printer. If you have an HP printer, you have a Roku, you have a PlayStation, you have an Xbox. I mean, even just a computer that is used by a family member that doesn't care about the security or updates. Like my wife is constantly saying, "I'm not going to update my computer. This takes too much time. It's going to close things," so she won't do it. So you'd be shocked. You run it on your home network, especially geeks like us who have 50 devices in our home network, and you'd just be shocked at the vulnerabilities
yeah.
you have.
And I do have an HP 7410 printer that, although I did take it off Wi-Fi, so it's
Yeah, I
wired
have mine
now.
on Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
but I've also, I work for a payment card company, and,
Right.
and people are always like, what should I do to protect my credit cards and all that? And my opinion on that is just use your credit card like you would use your credit card,
Yep.
because if it gets stolen in America, the bank is responsible for any money that's stolen. So really, who cares?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
realistically, it doesn't
Yeah.
affect me. My bank cards have been stolen twice. Both times I got every penny back within like 12 hours. All the money was put back in my account. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Here
know,
in the
we're
U.S.,
lucky.
that
Yeah.
works out pretty well.
Now,
So
when they go to chip and pin, which they're all touting, we're going to go to chip and pin, that's where we're going to start. The liability comes off of the bank when there's those chip and pin cards. Um, if you've ever been to Europe, you've seen them. Citibank
yep,
cards now have the little
I
chip.
had to get them.
hmm
Yeah. When I went to Europe, I got them.
Yeah.
And they actually replaced. It's funny because I got them. I ordered them specially, and they got them to me, and I used them. And then
hmm
they replaced the cards, and they sent me a note. They're like, "Well, because in the United States, you really don't need these. We're going to send you the real because those are more expensive
hmm
for them. So they were like, because you don't need them, we're not going to send them back
Yep.
to you. So
But actually, I have Citibank. I have a Citibank credit card, and I just got my new one like 2 weeks ago. Because the old one expired, and it's a chip and pin card. It's not active as one. It just works as a credit card, but it has
right,
the chip
there's
in
very
there.
few places here in the U.S. that
Target
even
is
take
planning
it.
on it.
You think after their
Yeah,
issues? Yeah, no, for
exactly.
sure. Yeah,
But that takes the liability
right.
away from the bank, so it's not necessarily a good thing, just like Bitcoins.
Yeah, Christian, when you got to be back in school?
Heading back the 26th. Classes start the 2nd, which is pretty
Oh,
much
you got two
or so.
weeks.
Yeah,
Two
I'm
weeks or so.
I'm catching up on a lot of stuff on my end before
Yeah,
I have to go back to the X grind. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm doing some interesting tech projects. Getting HTTPS enabled only was one of them. I also decided that I was being stingy with the master web server running all this stuff, so I bumped it up. I gave it 20 gigabytes of RAM because
Nice.
I decided to stop artificially capping it at 12. Um, and then and that's really too because when you add the SSL encryption, we're going to talk about this on Monday, but when you add the SSL encryption, that gives you a little bit of memory overhead, and then I did what was the other thing I did? There were two things I did that eat up a little bit more memory than usual, but SSL is definitely one of those. So.
Yeah, John, we need to get a couple episodes in, and then look at having you back on
Yeah.
Cyber Frontiers. Yeah.
Definitely. Let me know.
Trying to,
I think I'm gonna roll out. My wife's giving me the
she's
dirty
giving
eye.
you the hey.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
wish.
a while. Yeah.
I wish. Yeah.
Okay.
No, unfortunately not that one, but you know.
Oh,
But I had a
you
really
can always
great time.
wish.
I really appreciate you
Yeah,
guys having
John,
me on.
thanks, man. I appreciate
Yep,
it.
let me know, Cyber Frontiers. I can be on this one and
Yeah.
try and not be so technical.
No, we'll have
know?
you back on 9/11. You're scheduled, so just count
Okay.
on that. We'll talk
All right.
copters.
Yeah, make sure you shoot me an email and
Yeah.
I'll make sure it gets on
Yeah.
my schedule and
You bet.
everything. So.
You bet. Sounds
All
good, John.
right.
Take care.
Great.
Have a good
I had a
night.
great time. Thanks,
See you,
guys.
Yeah,
John.
no, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right, say goodbye to John. This will make switching video a little bit easier. I think it's time maybe give up the ghost with the video. Christian, what do you think?
What do you mean?
Just shut it off. to tell our YouTubers goodbye. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
Unless you got anything else you want to share with them.
I
We
don't know.
solidly pimped Monday night.
yeah, that's true. But we should definitely give yes to the open SSL. Again, Monday night, come out and all will be revealed. But B, it's been so long since I've been able to say let's have that 2 minutes of how many questions can you ask me in a 2 minute period that I can actually answer.
The lightning round? Is that what we're gonna?
Well, yeah, because last time I did it.
Lightning round?
The last time happened, either something with the internet. Yeah, that's what happened. We just started recording, and then your internet cut out, and you were just gone for like 10 minutes. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, here's the show.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so I
that's
was like,
right.
all right, guys, 10 minutes of whatever questions you got. And
All
we haven't
right.
done that in a long time.
So here we go. Let's do it.
we go. Let's see if anyone-
If you're in chat, this is Ask ACA. This is an Ask Christian Anything.
ACA.
And, Christian, this is a podcasting ACA.
Is that an actual acronym, or did you come up with that?
No, that's and Reddit. It's a Reddit
Okay,
thing.
yeah,
Ask
that's
me
what I thought.
anything. AMA.
Oh, AMA, yeah, but
Yeah,
ACA.
AMA.
Yeah, okay,
ACA,
I see what you did there.
Okay. See what?
I see what you did there, Jim.
Kind of flip that one around. Let's see if I turn this off. Let's see if we go back to more standard flipping. Let me. If you're listening on Spreaker, we're going to let you go as well. So let's turn off Spreaker. There's no sense in having 102 minutes of audio out there. Okay, we'll try and shut them down. Ask Christian anything. Come on, chat room. What do you got for him?
Yeah, no.
What do
How
you
delayed are we from the chat?
About 30 seconds. About 30 seconds. Let's hang up here. Sarah is just busting a gut in the other room over there. She's laughing a lot. At one point, my one of my kids was playing a really loud video game in the next room. And I'm like, really? Serious? I podcast one night. That's not true.
My one podcast every night.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Hey, I only podcast once a night.
Yes, I am. That's out at television.subsonic.org, I believe.
You have to repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I failed already. 0 points for Gryffindor. The question in the audience was, are you still running HD Home Run Prime on Subsonic? And the answer is, yes, we are. And we're doing that on, I think, whatever the latest version of Subsonic is. And it's great. And I use it all the time. And I have utterly failed on writing the automation script for that because of time constraints.
You've been a little busy.
A little bit. I really wish I could. It's been just so painful, all these other projects that I'm working on. But yeah, definitely opportunities to demo / use it occasionally without just completely taking down my network if you're interested in. So.
All right. Drashna says Hyper-V or ESX. And why?
Hyper-V 2012 R2, and that's failover with live migration. So if the primary goes down, it just shuffles off to the other system, and no difference from where the front end load balancer is. So it's all pretty seamless. And Hyper-V R2 actually does have really nice support with the guest integration for Linux now. So I'm actually, it's all CentOS, and I love it. Next question: you hosting sites with IIS, Apache, Nginx, etc.?
You missed one. No, you missed one.
Oh,
the
did I miss
OpenBSD folks have been very vocal about how awful the code base is for OpenSSL. Agree or disagree?
Right. Yeah, I would tentatively agree, but there are some things with the way the package manager and just the whole overall process of how we, I guess, do source code, review it, document it, and then make it available for particular distributions, that I think there's always some aspects of that some groups will do better than others. I would like to see the OpenBSD argument. I haven't read up on that yet, but I am going to at least tentatively say, full disclosure, I use the patched version of OpenSSL post Heartbleed, and enjoy it because of its easy integration with the platform that I'm using. But that doesn't mean it's not, there's not flawed source in there.
It's only as good as, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you
hosting sites. Yeah.
Right. So all the primary stuff, the average guy, the BIOS mods, all that stuff is all Apache, and that's what all my front-end Edge devices are using, is Apache. I do have one or two sites that are still, I've written, because I customly design them in .NET with my own code, so those run on IIS servers, but they're also proxied through Apache. So to the World Wide Web, everything is Apache with proxies. And should I mention that it uses fast CGI, so basically everything is like a PHP application in the background, and it makes it super fast. Sorry, the questions are jumping here.
Another question about when are you going to set up the script for HD Home Run Prime?
Yeah, we're gonna rain check that until I know. I'm trying to remember when I did the script, I had to basically, the first part of it was you get your channel guide listing in XML format, then you iterate through each of those, you spin out this, and then you set up the transcoding. It would actually probably, I'm gonna just because I love you guys so much, I'm gonna put it down. This is called This is called the Gallup Notebook of Truth. Now it says Gallup on it, but it's just turned into my general life.
So proud of you.
Notebook of Truth right now, and I'm gonna have to probably raid the closet soon because it's getting pretty full here. But this little list I got going on is my running list of everything I plan to get done before I head back in that car on the 26th. So I'm gonna tentatively sneak this.
You sleeping at all while you're home?
I'm sleeping a lot, man. I'm like a freaking caveman over here.
When you can get Gary, stuff hanging out there.
So I've just put on the golden white sheets of paper, write script for subsonic
Nice.
HD Home Run Prime.
Nice.
Okay, so it's there.
Mad
It's there.
Sonic or Subsonic?
All right. Both. We do all of our primary media on MadSonic, but the TV application that I use for Fios runs on Subsonic.
Okay. TrueCrypt ?
TrueCrypt is fascinating discussion, conversation in general, because it's one of the only anonymous encryption sources that are, well, should I say it's one of the only anonymous author sources of, this encryption platform dropped on the internet out of nowhere, and it was like, well, we thought it was this really secure thing that everyone trusted and believed in because it was, quote, random. But then we talked about this a couple shows ago too, and I got to get the latest on it because I'm a little bit out of date on it. But then, the guys posted on the site, hey, there might be a flaw in this code, and we're like not really sure if it's been exploited or not. So, and they did some weird stuff with their site. So I'm not sure where we are on that TrueCrypt. That's going to be a follow-up though, because I know the last time we talked about that, I was a little bit leery about it because it was supposed to be the latest and greatest for anonymous encryption standard, and then it just disappeared. So Good question.
Okay. Thoughts on the
Um,
future of internet with net neutrality?
it's going to get heated up. We're already starting to see some of the marketplace get shaped around what's going on with that net neutrality battle. I think the poster boy for this argument is obviously Netflix. And we're definitely starting to see some cases with Comcast. There were definitely some recent articles about, now it's not so much of a question of the fact that we're talking net neutrality, but now there's these battles between the internet service providers that are like, uh, which internet service provider can be the first one to say that they're servicing Netflix as fast as they possibly can. And that's not so much because they care about Netflix. It's because and they want Netflix's business to do well. It's because of this whole net neutrality, and people are watching very closely. We know people are watching very closely because when the FCC website goes down multiple times from all the people blasting comments on the open mic, so to speak, net neutrality discussions on their website, that's real dicey. So I think a lot of people are watching this conversation as it evolves. I personally think the internet needs to stay a free and open marketplace. I think that's a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit of what's come out in corporate America has been very well established and promoted through what's going on the internet, and I don't think we need to be inhibiting that. But the technology, the internal architecture, is going to eventually force some of these issues. And what I mean by that is like IPv6, it's going to change the pricing structure for all these ISPs, and the Internet of Things is going to completely distort our views of what internet traffic in general means. But then when you start saying, well, how does all this kind of future tech meld with net neutrality? We're talking right now net neutrality for the IPv4 like standard NAT era. Wait until we start talking net neutrality for the Vint Cerf IPv6 era of things, and then it's just like this conversation could change a lot. I'm hopeful that the FCC heeds the clear tea leaf warning signs that many Americans will be incredibly unsatisfied if the net neutrality goes down a dark path, and I think we all know what that dark path is. So again, I think the free and open internet is very important to a lot of things, economically, constitutionally, and even technologically, to make sure that we are running and building and engineering an internet architecture that shouldn't have what I would say are people limitations. So, we shouldn't be imposing what the limitations or bandwidth caps are on these technologies and saying, this price is what we need to get this level of technology. Because that's pretty much, to some extent, you can argue it both ways, but that's an artificial cap, and the more this technology gets advanced and streamlined, I think that argument's going to start to fall apart a little bit. But we will stay tuned because I know it's going to get heated up.
Yeah, that's a good summary on it. It's a very good summary on it. That might be a home tech tip right there. Libre SSL, any thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts. I need to look at that package. It hasn't been on my radar yet, but I will circle back on that one for sure.
Class you're most excited about for next semester?
Well, I could tell you the one I was the most excited about and then couldn't get into it. We have someone from the NSA for the first time at the University of Maryland teaching a reverse engineering course at the university, and I was the first person on the wait list, and they wouldn't let me off, which is a whole nother angst that I'm just going to silently cap and throw into the trash bin. Do a
Swoosh.
A swoosh. There we go, a dunk. But I'm taking. I'm not taking any cybersecurity specific seminars this semester. I'm finishing up some of my other gen eds and general requirements. So I'm actually interested in this honors seminar called Why Do Things Fail, which is part of my gen ed honors requirement. And that should be a very interesting course because that's coming from a science-y kind of point of view. But I think that will probably be up front. Actually, really, the thing I'm most excited about coursework is I'm doing 2 credits of research on research funded by the Office of Naval Research Labs, Navy Research Labs, Naval. I said it right, yeah. on dynamic software reconfiguration. A lot of interesting things with that, and that's very cybersecurity-ish, and that's going towards my citation. So,
Top 3 or 4 factors you feel are important for SEO for a small business website on Google?
Um, the biggest change I'm starting to see in that, I'm going to kind of work my way backwards, so you don't hear conventional stuff. This new idea of rich snippets or structured data highlighting has been really emphasized in Google, and I actually have just started looking at this a lot because it seems to be picking up a lot of traction, which is, you just use standard HTML commenting and markups to kind of give Google a very, very clear, explicit picture of like what the HTML on your page represents. So you can use schema.org to basically say, hey, this part of code is a video object. This part of code is like the author. This part of code is like the actual content where the keywords are, and that will be a nice pickup. And it gives you these rich snippets where when people are searching on Google for stuff, they may see enhanced views of particular links that may make them more likely to click. So if you have the structured highlighting and micro formats set up right, you could have like your author photo actually show up in the search results page with like the LinkedIn link or whatever. So a lot of cool things you can do with that. Obviously the basics, making sure the meta tag keywords are not redundant, but are on all the pages. This is cliche, but I'm going to throw it out here because this was my SEO success for me is content. Obviously, large content is helpful. With small business, you're probably only focusing on very specific things. If you're more of like a content publisher, though, focus on getting a higher volume of individual pages, because each of those links kind of adds up in your overall, I call it index capita. And so the more links you can say that are, the more crawlable links on your site, the longer you keep in that Google search bot at your site doing stuff. That's a good thing to have happen. Make sure you're using Google Webmaster Tools to see what the keywords are that people think are important, and make sure you use webmasters to see, hey, I'm seeing this keyword show up in my top 10 and this is not represented on my site. And I've had this problem a lot too, especially when you're running like a forms site and the word form shows up everywhere, but form is not like a keyword you want to focus on your site. So you want to make sure you de-emphasize that keyword. So doing those types of things are pretty important.
How do you think we do at the averageguy.tv from a posting standpoint?
I mean, I think we do pretty good because we don't have the forums issue, for example, and WordPress doesn't throw in a lot of like garbage words. It's pretty much clean content. I just started looking at what the SEO for that looks like. I was looking at all the sites this week. So I probably have a pretty clear picture of that later this week. But I think we're doing pretty good. I think there's
a lot of links.
Yeah,
I mean, we put a lot of links in there.
Definitely a lot of links. I think this site in particular could probably really benefit from the rich snippets because of all the videos and audio and stuff we're doing, and because we have multiple authors getting like the author micro formats and stuff set up. That could be a big game changer for a site like this.
Yeah, I'd love to have more authors. Guys who just want to write once or twice a year and throw that stuff in there. That'd be kind of nice. Just to get, and at the end of the day, though, I don't live for SEO. I live for community.
Right,
and,
for sure.
And so we get a lot of good community involvement. Drashna asks, what ISP monopoly are you slaved to?
Well, I hope I understand that question correctly. Right now, I'm slave to Verizon Fios, and Fios is a very beautiful thing in this area. Because Fios is now doing symmetric routes, which means the download is the same as the upload on all packages now. So it's no longer like 55, 25, 7, whatever. It's 50-50, 25-25, 150, 150. The Fios Quantum service is impressive. Their infrastructure is impressive. They don't rate limit or throttle. It's crystal clear on television and internet. And they don't do annoying crap like block ports and give you hell. And if you're clever, and you use cable cards to do all your television, and you don't use set-top boxes, then you can just completely take out the Verizon Fios modem altogether and put your own router in right at the very end. So, like John was talking about, like he has this, their hardware over here, and then he's kind of put his little wall in between. I don't have that anymore. It's all my stuff, and that keeps Verizon out of my network. And that's important because you'd be amazed at what the firmware from some of these ISPs allow. They can basically just, hang out on your private network and send little pings here and there and tell you some things that you would not like them to know. I wouldn't like them to know, like, oh, why is your iPad connected to your network? This is also going to get into a very futuristic conversation about when I was talking about ISPs and how the pricing structure and all that's going to change with the Internet of Things, where everything sees everything. Yeah, guess what's coming down the road, folks? Oh, you think the boardroom executives at these internet service providers are going to go, well, we can't charge for static IPs anymore. We can't charge for bandwidth because it's all fast. So we're going to charge for the number of devices that are on your network. And guess what? They're not, within a certain, there's going to be the same set of black hat tricks that everyone knows and loves, but for that average family of four, just putting on 5 iPads, 3 cell phones, a media center, they're gonna go, oh, thank you very much, we see you're now over 10 devices, that's going to be an additional $5 a month. And you're gonna go, but why? And then they're just gonna say, well, if you don't like this service, it's just too bad.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, that's good. Some good thoughts there. Ken had just said, he said, yeah, I heard about rich snippets, but I'd love a guide on how to get those set up. Seem great, but somewhat tricky to set up.
Yeah, Google actually has. I have to hand it to Google. They make everything. They make the world seem like such an easy white place with green grass hills and just rainbows everywhere. But of course, I'm wearing a Google shirt with a unicorn and a dinosaur on it. So what does that say about me? But yeah, there is. Schema.org will explain like what all the formats are, but that may not necessarily like help you understand where to actually put them in your markup. And Google has some of those videos, and it's really just like if you have an understanding of HTML and you know it's on your page, then it's really just a question of knowing which tag to drop into your HTML markup. And if you are like cognizant and aware of like what your HTML like master page template is, then you can apply it across your entire site. So it's not like you have to keep doing it on a page by page basis, which is really nice.
All right, I think we covered all the questions in the chat room. Nicely done, Christian.
Yeah, that was a good run.
Good work. Yeah, we should do that more often.
For sure.
That's a good idea to ask an AMA, a podcast AMA. We'll stay with the Reddit terminology, but maybe a podcast AMA. And did you guys notice the live guys? Do you see the new right above me there? Did you see the new branding that we've got going on up there? I did that myself.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. All right, can you package the ACA as like a separate audio bit?
Yeah, you want to do that?
Might not be bad.
Yeah, well, do we push it on Home Gadget Geeks or do we push it through Cyber Frontiers? It's a good. It would be a good home gadget geek.
Yeah, that's fine.
Type deal. I've got a week. I've got 2 weeks coming up that I'm missing. I can throw it in the channel for.
Yeah. Do that.
One of those. Yeah, that won't be till later in the month. But
that's fine.
There's some good stuff.
For sure.
There's some good stuff in there. So yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Well, tomorrow's Friday. Thank goodness. Man, this week just flew by. Holy cow.
Yep.
And it's going to be a busy. It'd be a busy weekend for me too. I got a lot of. Yeah, Ken says good work, Christian. Yeah, I got a busy weekend, so I'm gonna say goodbye to the YouTubers, guys. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, there's nobody who's better at that kind of stuff than Christian. You're just really good at just ripping that stuff off and just having an opinion. Drashna asks, is that a Dell monitor up there?
Is.
Yeah, it's an old school Dell monitor too. It's an old 3x2.
Is it a 15-inch?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, those were like every single desk had a 15-inch Dell on.
Yeah, they sold 1 million of those things up there. We've had it for a long time. Solely bought it in here just to be a reference monitor for the. I mean, it's attached to my Windows Server 2011 box, Windows Home Server 2011 box, but it's just meant for the podcast. That's the only reason it's there. I never use it. I remote into it if I need the home server. So. Very cool. So, all right, YouTube, we're gonna let you go, guys. Thanks for coming out. We'll be back, next Thursday. Join us Monday.
Yeah, for sure.
Cyber Frontiers, and we'll put more. I'll be pimping that solidly over the weekend. So we'll see you guys.